What's up, party people? This is Jude Mossberg from Facebook, Jude's Junk, Facebook comic book shop, YouTube channel. And what I've been encouraged about is there's a lot of new people, it seems, getting into comics right now. I see a lot of people, I've been collecting 3 months, I've been collecting 6 months. And they have a lot of the questions that normal collectors ask. But one thing I've always wanted to do, and I thought I would really take the time to do a prepared video, but this is kind of off the cuff. A lot of new collectors may not be aware that there's a million different ways to, quote, make money in the comic book hobby, or should I better say, try to make money, because they hear people doing all these different things. And you could try everything. And I think when I got back into it in 2021, I kind of tried everything. And I'll go into some of the different options in a minute, but everything is too much, and then you can't really get good at one thing. It'd be like going to the car business, and you want to do everything. You want to sell new cars. You want to sell used cars. You want to have a shop to fix not just your cars, all cars. You want to sell parts, and maybe a dealer could do that, but a dealer's big. They have licenses with the sales company, and they have to hire a lot of people. So if you're just one guy and you're trying to collect, there's so many different ways to potentially make money, and that's, for some people, part of the fun of comic book collecting. Some people hate it, they just like reading, and that's a totally different world. If you just like reading comic books, that is a totally different world than those who want to get in, and they always say, hey, what's a good comic to buy now? I mean, yeah, what's your goal? Are you looking for good stories? What kind of stories do you like? Usually they're saying, hey, I want to buy something that's going to go up in value later, or I want to take that chance. I have actually noticed a lot of comic book collectors love gambling. I have a client in another country that constantly sends me money to buy Powerball tickets. He just likes that gambling aspect of it. You have these, I can't remember the term of it, but there's a way to gamble on Facebook groups. It just escapes me what they call it, where you have a list of like 10 spots, and you pay $100 for each spot, and that'll buy you and then one of those people will get drawn for a $1,000 book. And so there's gambling involved. And this whole new company that's selling these blind boxes, what is it? It's not Comic Connect, but it's something like that, and you're gambling, hoping to get a good one. So there's a lot of gambling. So it's possible that love of gambling bleeds into comic book collecting, and people are okay if they lose. And what I mean by that, go out and buy a bunch of raw books, keys, send them into CGC, and gamble, and hope you get a winner. So the cost of the raw book, the cost of getting it graded or signed, and then hopefully the grade is much, much higher, meaning you could sell it for more than what you put into it. So you put in $400 into it, and you get an $800 book, and that would be like a gamble win. Or you put $400 into a book, and you get a $100 book, and that would be a gamble loss. So a lot of people are okay with gambling. That's different than people who are really looking for a profit. Now, some people are really looking for a profit, but they don't know they're going to be getting into the gambling mode, and they'll find out later when they're, it only costs $10 to get a signature. When you see a yellow label, a 9/8 yellow label, and there's a signature on it, oh, it only costs $10 for the signature. Okay, for one thing, it's $180 for a Jim Lee signature at CGC with all the shipping, the label, the cost. It's $180. And if you send in 10 books that are 9/8, you could get back 8 or 9 that are 9/8 and 1 or 2 that lose a grade. So you lose all your profit on those 1 or 2 that you lose. And that's if you don't know how to grade. So if you don't know how to look through the case and look to see if there's nicks that could be dinged off, if you're just sending in all 9/8 like I did in the beginning, you're going to get burned, and maybe upwards of 20% are going to lose a grade if you're not pre-screening those 9/8, because a lot of 9/8 in a case may not get a 9/8 if you crack them and sign them again later. And that's an expensive lesson to learn. So there's a lot of gambling. Buying a whole collection from somebody, not looking through every single one or not getting a list. You give them, you have 13 long boxes. And so there's that love of gambling. and you end up with a bunch of 90s Valiant stuff. Now I think the 90s independent stuff is trash, so if you love 90s Valiant and you think you can sell it, make money, great, go for it. But going to a flea market and hope you get lucky is a form of maybe gambling with your time, and going to yard sales and stuff like that. Those are all like, hey, maybe I'll get lucky, maybe I'll get lucky. So there's an element of that in the comic book industry where you want to take the risk, you want to take, and you're not going to be that bent if you lose, because it's not really, you're not really relying on a profit model to pay the bills. You're just kind of doing this as a hobby. Maybe I can get lucky, maybe I can win the lottery. If not, no big deal. It's like going to Vegas. You bring $500 to lose, and if you win, that's a great story, but if you lose, no big deal, because you went to Vegas and you had fun gambling. And so a lot of people are doing comic books like that. They're having fun gambling, and that is totally fine. Whatever floats your boat. I am more of, I want to make a profit with my time and money. A lot of people say you can't make money in the comic book market. That might be true. That might be true for most. That might be true for some. There's a lot of people that have businesses that pay bills and or have better skills at grading, or they have a niche. Now, there's a lot of different things. There's the moderns. I know some people that grade a whole bunch of moderns. They get back 9/8 graded books, and they sell those graded books. So you get a modern for $3. You get it graded, maybe pressed, or you do a pre-screen, probably a pre-screen, and you get these, $22 to grade if you avoid the press. You do the pre-screen, I think it's another $8 or $10, but you're looking at about $30, $40 to grade a $3 brand new modern. Lost Boy Comics, he does a lot of this. He gets the new books, might buy 20 of them, send it in, pre-screen the 9/8, and he only pays to get graded the 9/8. And then if you spent $30, $40 on a slab, and you do that for 50 books, and you hope that you sell it for 80, that's 100% profit. Now you got to spend time in marketing and all that stuff. But yeah, pay $40 for a slab book, sell it for 80, $100 profit. You do that 10 times, 100% profit, I mean. So that's one model, the modern world. Then you can get into the modern variants. A lot of people like the variants and hope one of those will go big. So you buy a lot of these variants. I don't like moderns at all. I'm more into it for the long term. So the whole modern world of collecting and variants and the new Spawn stuff or whatnot, count me out. I'm totally done with that. I tried it. I played around with it. Not a big fan. I grew up reading comics in the 80s, collecting comics in the 80s. That's my sweet spot. Now I'm getting really into the Bronze Age, a lot of Bronze Age. I do 9.8 only. That's my niche, 9.8 only, unless we're talking Silver Age. But I'm getting into a lot of 9/8 bronze books that have fallen so much. They're off people's radar. The people that collected in the 70s are 10 years older than me, and I'm 55. So they're 65. So there's not a lot of people run around 65 heavily involved in buying and selling in the market anymore. They're at that phase of life where they're enjoying retirement, traveling, grandkids, and that type of thing. So I think the demand for those 70 books is waning, and those prices are falling. In many cases, selling for less than what they sold in 2003. Now, that may not be a good sign in the long term. They may just continue to fall as the 70s get farther and farther away. Maybe there'll be a resurgence in these Bronze Age books, but and I'm talking about not the major keys like GSX-1. I'm talking about Marvel Fanfare, Marvel Premiere, minor keys, not major keys. Those are still major keys. So I'm liking that. I like some of the keys from the 90s. I got a lot of X-Men 1s signed by 1, 2, or 3 signatures, 9/8 yellow labels. I'm specializing in 9/8 graded books. I tried the raw books. That's a whole nother avenue. You can get into the raw books. I see a lot of people, their whole model is go out and buy a bunch of comics in a collection, do a $1 start auction, and they buy them for maybe $1 each, these books. And then you throw them up for auction. You always have to have some keys in there to get people's eyes in there, and then they're going for the key, and then they're like, well, if I'm going to get one book, I might as well bid on these $2 or $3 books. So there's a lot of people that do that. I don't know how profitable that is with how much time is involved with packaging all that up, but If this is a hobby and you want to try to make some money on the side, you might buy in bulk and then sell them on auctions there. Um, I'm on a lot of real auction sites, not what these auctions that they do on Facebook, but real auction sites where they sell in bulk. And these are people probably not trying to make money. These are people probably liquidating their estate. They gave it to this auction house that doesn't even specialize in comic books. I'm not talking about the Heritages and the Comic Connects of the world. I'm talking about auction houses all over the country that someone dies and their whole estate goes there. All collectibles get sold there. They have fewer eyes, but for some reason with their buyer's premiums, I'm not getting the best deals off these estate sales, which is really weird to me. Anyways, I digress. Um, so those auctions are probably not people trying to make money. They're just trying to liquidate their dad's comic books, and they sell them in bulk. And that's the best way to get a deal, is buy a bunch of these raws in bulk. And but if you do the $1 start auctions, you can get into raw books. You can get into graded books. Graded books are tricky. Graded books and raw books are different. Raw books, you really know how to grade. Especially as you get into more expensive books, you really know how to grade. People are getting into pressing to make money. People are getting into restoration and whitening and staples and doing that to make money on the side. So there's just like so many different aspects of the comic book world I wanted to introduce you to where you could potentially make money. I would suggest everybody learn how to grade. Learn how to grade, spend more hours than everybody else learning how to grade, read all the CGC stuff. You will have the leg up. You will be able to look at a 9.8 plastic case. You'll be able to look at it front and back and say, that's not a 9.8. I'm not going to try to win that. I'm not going to try to bid on it or sell it. You will be able to go much further in this industry if you know how to grade. Do not fall in the trap of everybody that says, hey, I got a book for sale. What's it graded? I don't know. I'm not a professional grader. Okay, not even interested in wasting my time, especially if it's a small book. If it's a big book, go ahead, send me 10 pictures. Oh, I don't want to send you 10 pictures. Well, how do I look at the quadrant of the front and back? 4 quadrants front, 4 quadrants back. I need a full picture front, full picture back. How many people are willing to give me 10 pictures on an expensive raw book? And they have the side angles with the blurred vision, so you can't see that side of the book. And people don't know how to take pictures. People don't know how to market. They don't know how to advertise. So there's raw books is not my jam anymore. And if it's your jam because of finances and that's the cheaper model, it's just more complicated. If you don't have a professional grader putting their stamp on it, it's more complicated to sell because people, if you have a real 9.6 raw book and it costs you $30 to grade it, you don't take a 9.6. I'm sorry, you would take a 9.6 value and just subtract off the $30 for grading, and that's what the raw book would be worth. But it's very, very hard to sell 9.6 raw books. I know, because I do. I do sell 9.6 raw books to people that want to send things off to get grading, and my 9.6 raw books are about twice what a 9.4 is. And a lot of people don't like that at all. They're like, you can't do a 9.6 price for a raw book. Sure I can. Here's the grade. Here's all the pictures. If you don't want to pay it, that's fine, but a lot of people buying raw. I see a lot of people that are like, oh, I want this mega key, this $1,000 book, but I want it raw. I want Invincible 1 raw. Yeah, you and me and everybody does. And maybe you find the sucker that sells that Invincible 1 raw, or maybe you're the sucker because he knows there's something wrong on the inside of it. He knows that there's color touch on it, and you won't. He might have gone and bought an Invincible 1 yellow, green label or purple label, cracked it open, sold it to you for a premium, and you're thinking you're getting a steal on a raw. So I just had a guy buy a raw Amazing Fantasy 15. I warned him not to do it, and he got burned. He got his money back, but they tried to sell him a piece together, married, covered, and he didn't know any of that in advance. So raw big books are very, very sketchy. If you want to participate in buying and selling in that world, you have to have very good skills. And for a lot of new collectors, that may not be your jam. And new collectors need to figure out their budget. You know, do you want to deal with $5 books, $10 books, $100 books? Set some goals. So when you say I'm new to collecting, what should I buy? I always say, what is your goal? Is your goal to try to invest and sell for later? Never underestimate how much it's going to cost you to sell something. the time involved, putting together a marketplace ad. I'm lucky if I get 2 marketplace ads posted a day. 2 a day. I also have a Facebook page. I also have a shop on Facebook. I do some Instagram stuff with the bigger books, but that is my goal, to do 2 Facebook posts for one book. 2 posts for one book on Marketplace a day. And that's because I don't want to spam a bunch of these groups and get kicked out, not then lose all those eyes. And it's time consuming. A lot of pictures. I do it at a very high level. I do a video, I do a good picture, the ad copy, the wording in the ad. I spend a lot of time developing exactly how I want to put in there so the clients get all the questions up front that they need. And so I don't want to, the confused mind says no, right? That is an ongoing sales thing. So when a client is confused about your ad and they just move on, that's not good. And I don't want to be answering a bunch of questions that I could have answered in the ad. And so that's the way I choose to do it. A lot of people don't make their ads that complex and difficult. They do it their own way, which is great. There's a lot of different ways to sell. So again, what do you want to collect? What do you want to do? How do you want to invest? All really depends on what your goals are, what your budget is. And I know I'm probably missing some more options, but I'm looking at the time because my wife just waved to me goodbye and I don't know where she's going. So conventions, people go to the conventions and they get all these brand new hot books. Friday night, they're posting them online for sale. First to market, the early bird gets the worm. A lot of this stuff, watch Comic Toms, and they watch Comic Toms for the hot things. You can just pay for a subscription to Key Collector, and you can get that information 4 days early. So Comic Toms isn't the hot, it's the subscription to Key Collector, and you get all 20 books, not 10. But as soon as that comes out, the day that comes out, which I believe is Thursday, that's the day your books should be going up on eBay Marketplace, because that's showing the past week. And the past week may not be an indication of the future week. By the time they report it, you've already might have missed the boat, but maybe not. So get the subscription to Key Collector if you want to sell the books the right way. Put it up on wherever you're selling it the day that it comes out. I don't have that time to, post things up for sale the day that it's hot. I've done it a couple times successfully, but you really need to be on the ball with information. You really need to be on the ball with your time, and a lot of people don't have that much time. There's just, I could go on and on and on about ways to make money. Financing books has been a big avenue for me. I have a lot of clients that finance books. I decided to really specialize in international, and that's opened up my client base worldwide, and that's been huge. I've said most of my bigger purchases have been international clients. So you need to know customs, you need to know packaging, insurance. I finally just got collect insurance, $2,000, $2,400, because my books are now getting above $5,000, and insuring is more and more difficult, especially when you get overseas. Then you get into tariffs, and then if you put the true value on to insure it by FedEx, then the tariffs and customs are out of this world. So you got to manage all that. So mine is international. Mine is big books. Mine's 9.8s. I like Signature Series. I just like that. I didn't at first, but I really like it now. I think someone that grew up in the 80s with a lot of these artists, and I started seeing all these artists die in the last 6 years, including Stan Lee. A lot of big names passed away just in the last 6 years, and those artists are not going to be around long. Todd McFarlane seems pretty young for his age, and maybe he's healthy, but there's a lot of artists that are going to be gone, and when they're gone, there's no more new signatures. So that's more of a long term, even though some people, I sell a lot of those now. I know that eventually those 80 artists will be gone. Some of the 70s artists are still around. I don't think any of the 60s artists are still around. You let me know if I'm wrong. So I like those 70s and 80s artists signing books because when they pass away, there'll be no more of that book left. You can get a lot of 5.0 Silver Age key books. You can't get a lot signed by Stan. So it makes it that much more rare. And that's why the Stan Lee is such a huge bump in value. Oh, man. Getting into comics, what do you want to do? Again, it goes back to budget, what your goals are, what time period you like. I like Marvel mostly. DC, I only focus on Batman. You might be a big DC guy with all the new MCU focus. That might be your jam. You like what you like, and you find a way to potentially, like I said, gamble, make money in that area. And a lot of people will say on here, comics isn't for making a profit. Okay, I get it. It's very, very hard, but it's very, very possible. A lot of people do it. It takes time to do it. So if you want to just have 10 books and focus on buying and selling those, or do you want to have 1,000 books? Before you go run off and buy hundreds and hundreds of raw books, hoping one of them pops, storage is a big, big deal. Bags, boards, boxes, where are you going to store it? Every time you move, you got to think, where do you want your business to be in 5 years? Do you want to be sitting on 5,000 books in 5 years? All raw $2, $5, $10 books. I didn't really think I'd have as many graded books as I do now, but I have maybe 1,000 9.8 graded books. And that's just where I'm at. So think about where you want to get to, because a lot of people change their model over time. There's an old saying is, you spend your life climbing up the corporate ladder only to find out the ladder's leaning up against the wrong wall. So you got to climb down. Collecting's the same way. You keep doing a kind of haphazard goal, and then 5 years from now, you're like, I don't want 5,000 $2 books. What am I going to do with them? Give them away? Maybe. Auction them? That takes time. Sell them on eBay is a lot. Takes time. Sell them all in one lump sum to a dealer. Dealers aren't going to pay a lot. Individual buyers that like to sell it up on Facebook, they might pay a little bit more than a dealer would for raw. A lot of local comic shops don't have old comic books anymore. Their real focus is Funko Pops, new books, new, my LCS, it might have like 10 feet by 10 feet of old back books. That's it. So maybe there's other stores that specialize in backlog books, but you can get all that stuff online now, and it's much cheaper than getting in a store. The LCSs are really probably most likely for the new stuff, the new moderns. Anyways, guys, I built this YouTube channel for helping new collectors that have a bunch of questions. So whatever question you have, if you're newer, I probably did a video on it. If you have a question and you'd like me to do a video on it to share with you my take on it or my opinion on it, I'd be happy to do that. Anyways, lots of different ways to try and make money that I've left off here. If you can think about it, it's a new model. Happy hunting, good luck, have fun, take care.